Good morning, you bad, beautiful bitches. It is Wednesday morning. Back at it again with the wife. Hello.
Hi, husband.
Little financial episode.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to dive in. We've seen the DMs, the comments.
Yeah.
A lot of questions, more geared towards Ashley's finances. But we'll go into, how
Be nice.
decently successful relationship paid off their debt to get to where they are now.
Yeah, I think after we posted that last clip where you were like, I'm full-time social because I'm debt-free, I think everyone was like, what?
Yes.
Tell me how.
Well, I know, I don't think a lot of people knew the economics behind us,
right?
Like the business we have. And then once they heard your debt of $80K,
yeah,
and then in a relatively short amount of time see where you're at now, there I think gauged a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Of people being like, whoa.
Yeah.
And hopefully inspired too. If when I was drowning in debt, I definitely looked to, I didn't really have, there was influencers at the time, but no one speaking about debt. But like the Gary V's of the world definitely helped me to be like, oh, wait a minute, there's a different path here,
Yeah. And I also think like it's so good to be putting content like this out because there's like you and I even make like joking content like girl math and stuff like that. And like there's so much truth to that content as well. But I also think it's like really important to push that like motivating people to like better themselves and stuff, like do what we're doing. So
yeah, let's talk about you, okay?
Okay.
When we did a clip of this last podcast.
Yeah.
And I think we should expand on it. We should double click on it for sure. Ashley, when we first met, said the phrase, I literally like when I swipe my credit card, I like the sound it makes.
It's just...
You know who else says that? Serial killers, okay?
Probably.
It was the craziest comment, especially me.
That was date 2.
Hot off of doing Dave Ramsey's Dead is Dumb, Cash is King.
You kept trying to... I did get through most of that book. But remember, you kept giving me that book, and I just kept going to like my serial killer books, and you're like...
Yes. Well, she would read, I was a big proponent of if you don't use it, you lose it. Like whatever you don't focus on, you lose track of.
Yeah.
And so you weren't focusing on your finances at all. And
I did lose
coincidentally
track of
losing track of. So me, all I would read or listen to audio-wise was like Dave Ramsey or I was reading his book at the time. And then I gave you the book. And you were like, you read a page and a half. This girl she could read a Harry Potter book in 7 seconds. But then, God forbid, it was a financial self-help book. You turned into me reading.
Yeah.
Like, the duck swam through the and you never, I don't think you even touched it really. I think you were crinkling pages
now
to make it seem like you were.
Yeah. I definitely didn't finish it. I'll say that 100%.
But I know we don't fight often. My wife and I don't fight, but one of our real fights was before she moved in with me, she's living in the North End, 2-bedroom apartment. You were paying how much in rent?
$1,400 rent, and then utilities was about like $120, so like $1,500.
Okay, you're paying $1,500 a month to a total stranger, to a landlord. She moves in with me. And I know this girl's got we're not married at the time. This girl's got a mountain of debt, 80 plus K of debt. A little bit of consumer debt in there, mostly student loans.
Yeah.
So I go, okay, cool. How do we do this? You won't have to pay any rent here, but just take the $1,500 you were paying for your previous rent, in which you were paying to a total stranger.
Yes.
And just continue to pay $1,500, but just to yourself, to your debt. Pay off $1,500 a month to your debt. Fair? She's like, fair. I love it. I think we did one of these. For those listening and not watching, I did the nerdy double fist bump, and then sparkle fingers to
sparkle.
Anywho, so I think I'll say it, and then it's up to you to do it. I'm not going to check in.
There's a lot of trust.
A lot of trust at the time, which is oddly enough what a relationship is kind of built on. So I'm like, oh, this girl's probably banging it out. So probably 6 months goes by. What even is the math on that? What's 6 times 1,500?
3, 6, 9,000.
9,000. So I'm thinking in my head, 6 months have gone past. She's got to be down little, just south of 10 grand in her loans.
Yeah.
So I call her over. And I was like, I'll do these. And
you're excited too because you really thought you were going to see something.
It was right out of Room Raiders, right? She did not know I was going to do a full-on sweep of her dirt.
And for people who are that's not his business. I just want to say, like, it is. If you are planning to build a life with someone and commit to someone, honestly, their finances are your business, because then it becomes your kid's business. And like so much of this, because we got a ton of comments like what she spends her money on isn't. If you are planning to get married, it is.
Totally.
Because then when your money, no matter how you decide to divvy that up once you're married, like if you do have a shared account or even separate accounts, if I'm over here blowing my money left and right and he's over here having to like support us and get me out of debt every time.
It's going to be a fight.
Yeah. It's going to be a fight, but it's also going to like, maybe we get evicted, right?
There it is. Maybe a volcano explodes and we would get.
But if you are planning to build a life with someone, every aspect of your lives is something that needs to at least be discussed and talked about and on the same page.
So we open up who are your loans through? Your student loans?
I still don't know.
There we go. I believe it was Sally Mae.
No, they weren't Sally Mae.
So we open up her account and I'm like, oh, she's got to be down almost $9,000. And it is, not only hasn't moved, it's gone up. It's gone up from interest rates. So I do the Dwayne The Rock Johnson, like one eye up, looking at her being like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And I forget what you said at the time, but I bluntly put, how come you can give a complete stranger $1,500 a month in rent, but you can't give your own husband, who's giving you the freedom to pay off your own debt, you can't even pay yourself $1,500 towards your debt.
Yeah.
And then there was endless waterworks, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna work on myself.
Well, that's what I want to touch upon too, because you thought because I didn't pay anything off, I at least had $10,000 in my savings.
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. You didn't do it in the interim, but why don't we just write a check right now? Open up the savings. It's cobwebs and a hard candy in there. There's 3 raspberries sitting there being like, "Can you not see me?"
But that's what really. So this was. I got a comment asking, and they weren't being like negative about it. They were genuinely asking, and they were like, "Proud of you either way. Obviously, a huge accomplishment." But did he pay for this, or like did you?
Like pay off your debt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, we have had like negative comments, but this was actually someone genuinely asking. I was like, he did not pay a single dollar off of my student debt, and that is 100% true.
Right.
And then I have other people saying like, how you said like I'm going to pay rent, like it's easier because of that. So grateful for that opportunity, and yes, that is a big chunk of money that I get to put towards that. So I'm not belittling, and I do understand other people's situations aren't like that. But as you had just said, 6 months go by, I was spending the money. I was spending more money than I was bringing in. So that conversation right there, as hard as it was, like it was what needed to happen for someone like me who grew up with such a bad relationship with money. My parents gave me and my siblings everything and more that we ever wanted. And that was a promise that they said to each other when they got married, because they grew up, just like different generations. And they were like, we don't want our kids to ever have to like not be able to receive something. We're going to give our kids everything. And they did, and gave us everything and more, but they didn't have the money to do so. So I watched them rack up credit debt. By the time I got credit cards, my dad tried so hard to teach us differently than that. But, and like, this, you like basically had a stroke when I said this. I didn't use a credit card to buy for things and then pay it off. I used my credit card when I didn't have money and wanted something. So like my bank account was at 0 and I was like, that's all right. I got a credit card I can rack right up. And then I wasn't able to pay that off. And interest rates on credit cards are like 25%. So I just had this really unhealthy relationship. And that was a conversation you and I also had to have, because you were like, why can't you just like stop? And like, we also had to learn, like, this is something for the past 26 years of my life I was doing. I needed to like rewire my brain.
Yes.
And that conversation with you about like, I think you had said like, you just feel like I abused you in that like sense and like took advantage of you, and like you were supporting me, and I was just like, and like that hurt me, because like I love you more than anything, and like that's what I was like, shit, Ash, like you gotta figure it the fuck out. And that's what I wanted to say to everyone. Like, yes, everyone's financial situation is completely different, 100%. But you are the problem.
Right.
In almost every single situation. And I'm not speaking to people who like really are trying their absolute hardest, putting in money, and like, everyone's situation is different. But 99.9% of the cases, especially the people like DMing me who I've answered, my own friends, you are the freaking issue. And like, until you realize that,
Speak your shit, girl.
Like, you are not figuring it out. And I am allowed to say that because it was my issue. Like, I did go through this. And I think also something people don't realize is my whole life up until right now, working full-time social media, I've always had at least 3 jobs. Always. Like, people thought I was like
3 jobs, no money. We don't know how the equation happens.
I have no idea. But so I always worked hard. So when I realized, like, shit, Ash, you have to figure it the F out. That's what I did. I budgeted my money. I was like, what am I spending the most money on? And honestly, like, and you helped me realize this, what I spent the most money on was never those big things like, oh, my car costs this much. Oh, honey, I promise you, like, your dunk strips are probably costing more. You don't think so because it might be like $2 a day, $5 a day. You don't see it on the day to day, but like it adds up. And I had to figure out, like, where's my money going? Where can I stop? A lot of the issue with me is I was really good at having no money. I wasn't good at having money. So like I would get a paycheck and I'm like, where can I put it? And it wouldn't even be things I wanted.
It was burning a hole in your pocket.
Yeah. I was like, that shirt's cute. Do I need it for anything? I don't know, but buy it. And like I had to very much change that. Like, you don't need that shirt. I didn't stop my shopping 100%, but like I shopped when there was something I genuinely needed. And like the event
was versus a want.
Right.
I'll never forget sitting you down and being like, what's your highest expense? And you're like, rent, undoubtedly. And we're like, cool. How much is rent? $1,500. And I was like, let's go through. I had my calculator open and I had your credit card open.
We didn't get through like 2 weeks.
And we're going through Ashley's, all of her expenses by category. Grocery shopping is all lumped into one category. Any car payments, debt payments.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if I was more mad or impressed.
Yeah.
Your spending on just shopping, and all the line items was Target, Amazon, Starbucks, Abercrombie. Those are like the 4. There's probably one more I'm missing that were categorized under shopping. Yeah. It was like $3,500 a month.
And I didn't make that.
And she made like $3,000 at the time. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm more mad or impressed that you found an extra $500 somewhere to blow it, you know?
I remember that specifically too, because there was that week, I don't know what happened, 3 Abercrombie purchases in 1 week.
Oh yeah.
Online.
And then I was reading out the dates. I'd be like if it was right now, I'd be like June 10th, yesterday.
Yeah.
Target, 9 a.m. Target, 11, Target, 2 p.m. Target, 3. It's like, you went to Target 4 times in one day? As if you're like a plumber going to Home Depot.
Right.
8 times a day.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
I just got a hankering. I just can't. They got those new cake pops at Starbucks. I know, I can't miss
Did you try the orange one though?
See,
like it
yeah,
is,
I know
yeah. And yeah, like I think that's a lot of things too. And I remember there was someone who, we took full advantage of that no interest for the loans that weren't accruing interest during it, because there's never going to be a time again where you can do that. And I remember we posted that and someone had commented like, well, I can't do that because like I wouldn't be able to survive. And again, I can't speak towards everyone's situation. But the girl who commented that, I remember going on her page and she had the longest nails with like diamonds, sparkle, and chains all over that. And I'm like, you said you're drowning, yet you can pay $200 for your nails probably every single week. So don't give me that shit. Like, again, you are your biggest issue and you need to learn. I think one of the things, like we were talking about earlier, is that I think social media like really has so many flaws in the way that there's so many pros and cons, but a lot of the flaws is we all like to like compare ourselves, and you get FOMO and you see what this person's doing. First off, 99.9% of social media is completely fake. So can't go by that, but I think a lot of it
Besides that accent, honey. Boy, I wish that accent was fake.
That's real. But I think a lot of it, like, especially like when I first graduated college, so many of my friends were like still going out to dinners, and you see people at like really nice high-end restaurants, and you're like, what the hell? Like, why can't I do that? And I think this might be like a long rant for this, but a lot of it is just that same situation. Like, if your friends told you to jump off a bridge, like wanted you to jump off the bridge with them, would you? And like the case, like, say like, but like Rebecca's going out, like Rebecca's doing this, why can't I do this? And it's just like, Rebecca might not be in as much debt as you're in. Or maybe Rebecca isn't as much debt as you're in, but, she's going to be screwed too. But at the end of the day, who's going to bail her out? Rebecca her parents might have paid for her full debt.
There's not a lot of transparency on finances.
Right.
Especially kids our age.
Right.
It's all hidden. No one talks about it.
Yeah.
Everyone just brags about the income. No one talks about the debt they have.
Right.
And then it's everyone trying to compete with everyone else on the keeping up with the Joneses,
right?
You know?
And I just think in every situation, like, okay, maybe Rebecca's in the same situation as you. It's not your life though. Like, you have to bail yourself out. You also don't know Rebecca's job could go public and she could cash out on all her investments. That happened to my friend and she was able to pay off all her debt. Now you're sitting there still with the debt. Like, who cares what your friends are doing? I know for like you and I, and again, every situation is different, but I was like, I want to sacrifice now so that when we have children, I never have to tell them no. And by not saying never have to tell them no, because no, they will hear the word
spoiled.
no. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, they are going to learn
Wait
the word.
till they come to dad.
They will.
The ruler with the iron fist.
They will hear the word no, but it won't be because we can't do it. It's because of more of a lesson. And I'm not saying that makes you a good mom, bad mom. Everyone's situations are different. But like, I know for me, I was like, I would rather have to say no to myself now for something so unimportant than like not be able to get something for like our children. Or
Dave Ramsey. Live like no one else, you can live like no one else.
Exactly.
What a great line.
So I don't know. There was a lot, but it was a lot of like self work that I had to do for this. And
was it one moment that turned you around, or was it a bunch of granular moments that?
No, it was that moment where like I like completely mistrust you. Like I hurt you, and like it was such a slap in the face. And I was like, Ashley, what the hell are you doing? Like, why can't you pay off this money?
And then I remember you saying too, once you saw your debt go from like 80 to 79, 74, 68.
Yeah.
And then it became like a game for you of being like, ooh, this number's moving. Like, how can I, back to what we said off air, when I was paying off my debt, if I recycled this can today, which I believe has a recycle value in the state of Maine for 10 cents, I would be putting 10 cents into my student loans that day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Every couch I sold, $75 love seat, $75 that night went into student loans. You know, $800 sectional sales, $800 goes right into, you know, which you were doing. You were throwing like, whatever the saying is, that you throw everything in the kitchen sink at it.
Right.
You know, to pay for it.
And I think another thing too, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, like social media, that like at the end of the day, anyone can get on social media.
Totally.
For some people, their stuff just takes off 100%. But I mean, even if you look at Alex Arlt, she actually was posting TikToks for 4 years before she took off. Or I don't know if it was 4 years, like 2 years. But like, it is available to absolutely everyone. It is a source of income that could be really freaking amazing. So don't be like, oh, well, lucky you have social media. I started at zero.
Yeah.
Just like everyone else. It took me years to start making $1 from that. And I'm still not making absolutely crazy money. I built myself up, and like every time I'm making a little bit more, which I'm so grateful for. But the majority of my money paying it off actually came from like picking up extra waitressing shifts. I worked from the time that you and I met till now, I worked probably like 8 jobs.
It was absurd.
Yeah.
When we got married and I had to file our taxes for the first time jointly, I was like, I'll never forget the line. I go, hey, hand me your W-2. I'm thinking it's a singular W-2, singular, one piece of paper. She hands me what looked like some sort of encyclopedia with the thumb holes on the side to find your chapter. It was that many W-2s.
Because you've only ever worked one job.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Well, like multiple jobs but at 8 times.
Yeah.
Where I worked last year. Last year alone, I probably had 5 to 6 sources of income. It
nearly brought me to tears. Me and TurboTax were both like, is there another one? It was brutal. So happy now you're in the K1 lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know,
which is great. But I do want everyone to know too, and like you said, like it did become really exciting. At first, it was really, really tough because I was like, oh, this $5,000, especially like I paid off the last $15K the month before our wedding.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there with that $15K, and I was like, or I don't know if I had it all right up, but I was like, this can go towards the wedding right now, or this can go towards my dad. And I remember being like,
I was like, I ain't marrying you if you got the debts. So
you actually,
we gonna push back the wedding if we got to do.
I think it was actually a secret from you, not a secret, but I was like so excited to share with you. So like, I think the last time you and I checked in with each other, because the last little bit did come relatively quickly. I had like 22K in debt, and then all of a sudden I was like, I'm debt free, and you were like crying. But it was really hard because like you're like, oh, there's so much I can do with this money. But I was like, you know what? The wedding is one day. I can get this off my chest. I can get it done with. And then I have no more debt. And now every dollar after that is my money. And like, thankfully at this point I was in, and I got rid of all my credit cards during that time because of the way I had been using credit cards, I couldn't trust myself with one.
Right.
I think everyone's different in that. You have always used credit cards the way like you're supposed to build your credit. I was like, I can't trust myself with the credit card, so I had to get rid of it. If I was spending money, it was the money I had.
Right.
And we had to do that. So it's really hard. It takes a lot of sacrifice, but literally, and no one likes when I say this, but you are the reason for everything in life.
Well, the thing is good you're saying that, though. I think it's easy to give yourself a cop-out and look in the mirror and give yourself a watered-down assessment of where you're actually at and be like, well, we're trying, we're trying our best. But there's, if you really get rid of the, like, emotion in it and being like, oh, no, you're actually leaving a lot on the table. And you went out for dinners, really nice, expensive dinners the last few weekends in a row. We were talking to Hurley about this the other day. Maybe you got bottle service, at the club.
Right.
That's going to set you back. Like, anytime I swiped my card when I had debt, I was like, wow. Yeah. Even if it was dumb stuff, like I'd buy like a Celsius and a pack of gum. And I was like, at CVS. And I'd be like, that's $4.50 that I could have put to debt, Yeah. But once, now you're like, look at you. You are living proof that someone with $80K in debt and 3 jobs pretty much in the hospitality space, working your ass off, can get out of debt, I
also think, I'm not going to say the name of it because it's not our right to put them out, but remember a couple of weeks ago I had a friend who was like, hey, can you Venmo me like $400? Like I don't have any money. I was like, yeah, sure.
Bitch.
And then all of a sudden that's like one night. The next night,
you didn't do the Venmo, did you?
No. So no, I didn't. So the next day I'm on the phone with her and I'm like, oh, like, what's up? And she's like, I'm freaking exhausted. I had breakfast with this one today. I'm getting lunch with this person. I'm getting dinner with this person. And I go, didn't you just ask me for money yesterday? Like, I'm confused where you suddenly have all this money to go out. She goes, that's why I needed the money. And I go, no.
No accountability.
If you do not have that money, you do not go out to breakfast, lunch, and dinner with friends. You don't.
In the words of Dave Ramsey, debt is dumb, cash is king, and you're not seeing the inside of a restaurant unless you work there, honey. Yeah. So, that's absurd.
So I think just like really continuing to, it sucks, it hurts, it always sucks when you realize you're an issue, no matter what it is, finances, anything else. But the majority of things in life is a problem because of you. Yep. Not just cash, anything. And you need to realize, the sooner you can like figure out what the issue is, that's how you can fix it. It's really hard to realize you are the issue.
Right. 100%.
But that's how we did it. I think everyone always wants it to be a secret. Like, oh,
no, it's no snake oil stuff. Yeah, it's not selling Monat. It's real. It's real. It's raw. It's picking up extra shifts as a server or bartender. Yeah. For me, it was flipping an insane amount of couches. Yeah. Like, all it comes down to is just effort. And those that are like, well, I'm going to wait for the government to bail me out. I hope that happens. I really do. I hope, whether it's this current president or if it's whoever is in office the next term, bails you out. But if it doesn't happen, and now, like, my parents have friends that are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s with student loan debt. Barack Obama didn't pay off his debt until he was day one in the Oval Office. And also, that's crazy talk.
But also, like, that's great if they bail you out. But the reason you didn't bail me out or didn't help pay was because I had to learn a lesson. Right. So even if, like, the government does come and bail you out, honey, you go and rack up that debt again with your credit card because you don't know how to.
It's bad. I have a couple of buddies that were like, I'm not paying my loans. I'm waiting for the government. The government's going to bail us out. And I was like, oh, okay. If we go out to eat tonight and we rack up a bill, is it cool if we just bounce?
Right.
And they're like, well, no. And I was like, oh, okay. So you went to school for you, not for anyone else, so that you could better your life. And now you want someone else to pay for it. I was like, it's only you who should be paying for the bill, It's just bad business practice.
Right. And it's such a learning thing. It sucks. It sucks school was that expensive. I didn't even use either of my degrees. That was my undergrad and graduate degree. I'm not using either of them. But it was, I think, and I say this, it sounds so silly, but I think I needed to learn how to pay off that money and change my mindset with money and have a healthy relationship with money. I had such an unhealthy relationship with money.
How does it feel now?
It feels so good. And it feels good.
Proud of you.
This sounds really silly, but like now that I do have control of my money, I'm not spending money on stupid things. I'm still spending money. But it feels so good that I can come home and like be like, look what I got.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no stress in your eyes. There's no like, we know like I had that money to pay for it and I'm good. I'm good to go. So,
well, I'm so proud of you. It's really cool too that whatever the saying is, like, you know, give a man a fish, he eats for a day, give a man a fishing rod and teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Like,
that's what you did.
We did that exact thing with you. So it's really cool to see you do a complete 180.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you. It's really cool to see who you are and who you've grown up to be. And I'm excited on where you're going. So if you're listening and you're like, I have more questions, or I wish they would have double clicked on XYZ, comment below on YouTube or shoot us a DM and we will answer it on the next pod.
Absolutely.
And if you're listening at this moment in time, if you could leave a review, good or bad, on any platform you're on, Spotify, podcast app, YouTube, you name it, be a friend, tell a friend, would ya? Hugs and kisses. This is the No Loads Podcast.